This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
You don't think that that particular line of work that they're in has a shelf life like that of an athlete? I feel like entering year 20, like they're pushing the term limits on how long you can do what they do for a living.
Race
You mean like steal cars?
Yeah.
Drivers.
And
Oh, guys, come on. You guys sound ignorant. They're not just stealing cars. They're saving the world. All right? They work for like special government agencies off the books, and if they get captured, there's no connection to them. But they're the ones that solve the problems that can't be solved by the normal police forces.
Billy, I thought their goose was cooked in Fast 5 when they were in Brazil.
Yeah.
Thought that was the end. I think, wasn't that when The Rock has his first appearance?
That was the best one, I think. 5.
The Rock,
Oh my God.
You know, he was against them, and naturally, as all good police or Secret Service agents or whatever it was that he does,
ATF.
when they help you at the end, you give them a little bit of a head start to get away, and
Yes.
they capture them after.
Yeah, and also maybe like a little immunity.
They didn't get that right
Sprinkle a
away.
little immunity in there.
No, Jessica, you always do the. I'm gonna have to bring you in. Now I just gotta find my handcuffs.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's when they get away.
That's yeah.
They don't have any immunity?
I believe that they may have gotten immunity in 7. The thing with the immunity, though, right, is that like immunity is good for like all of their past crimes that they've committed, but then they just go on to commit all these other future crimes, and it's like,
Right.
well, now they should be wanted again because they're kind of just going
Right.
rogue.
You're violating the terms and conditions of being a free man.
Yeah.
Billy,
Billy-
maybe you should do like a YouTube exclusive Fast 9 instant reaction video, because we're trying to think of some original programming for our YouTube channel, and it sounds like, you know, we have enough movie podcasts around, but like could be a fun little video. I don't know.
I actually today saw.
Amin is right there, Jessica.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
No, I mean, we don't-
Maybe you put the
Billy-
camera on.
No, I meant we have 2 good movie podcasts. Billy isn't competing for one of the good movie podcast spots.
Nice kick,
Billy's
save,
doing
and a
his
butte.
own. That is
Wow.
what I meant. It might not have come out that way, but I tried.
There's big mystery crate plans for the Fast release, but kind of caught up to us. And plans, I mean,
And
like
you had a
ideas.
child.
What was
Yeah,
what were some of your ideas? Can we execute them quickly, or?
Well, it was like, let's get Shea Serrano on it. Let's talk about the Fast and Furious because he loves the Fast and Furious, and so does Simmons. But like, they're gonna do their own Fast and Furious thing over there.
Hey, competing podcast network, you want to come help us boost our numbers?
It's family, man. Fast and Furious, there's no competition. Man.
Let's get some Coronas and talk about it.
Yeah,
Billy, I told you I've been on the set of 2 different Fast and Furiouses. And
you have said no such thing to me. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
You have my full attention.
All right. So 2017, I want to say during the NBA Finals, they were shooting Fast and the Furious in Cleveland. I believe one of the Fast 7 is the one where it's in New York, or which one's in New York? Fast 8?
They jump around so much.
Anyway, there's one where there's
Billy,
like
you
a
should know
big
this off the
pileup.
top of your head.
There's a big pileup in New
I'm
York.
rusty.
So I'm walking from my hotel to the arena, and I'm walking, and the first thing I see is an NYPD squad car parked on the street, and I'm like, look at these using taxpayer funds, mother effers. Like, God, you drove all the way here to Cleveland to watch an NBA Finals game? Yeah, okay. NYPD, ACAB is what I say. And so I keep walking, and then
Good one.
I see, yeah, you like that. I see like a massive 10-car pileup.
Wow.
I'm talking about cars upside down, and
Holy
there's
shit.
a NYPD motorcycle that's on it, and smoke, and I'm like, holy shit, is everyone okay? I'm looking, there's nobody. I like, should I call 911? And then I'm looking around, I'm like, wait a second, there's nobody here, and there are a lot of NYPD cop cars in this pileup. And then some guy, I was like, you're in the shot. I'm like, oh, I thought they corned it off. Yeah, they're shooting Fast and the Furious
Oh
in
my
downtown
God.
Cleveland because it looks like New York. And so
That's
that
impossible.
was
Does it though?
it looked like
There's
it's not going to look like
streets.
Central Park,
Yeah.
but it's like if you wanted to cheat, like this is somewhere downtown, you could. because
I mean,
it's got a lot of old
couldn't you do that with
buildings
a
in
lot of cities?
You can do that with Toronto.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of cities that it's just a
That's
bunch of
probably
tall
there's
buildings.
probably tax breaks in Ohio or something like that.
Yeah.
That's why they do a lot.
That's exactly it. So usually they do it in Canada because Canada is really cheap.
And I imagine
Vancouver.
I imagine a lot of cities like probably don't want the hub of their downtown to be closed off during business hours.
Yeah, in Cleveland
But
it doesn't matter because the
doesn't
hub
matter.
of the downtown is like 3 blocks.
On
Okay,
everything.
now you're being a snobby New Yorker, Jessica.
No. Jessica's right. On everything. I have walked down downtown Cleveland, a major thoroughfare that's 6 lanes, 3 lanes this way, 3 lanes that way, and it looked like what's the Will Smith movie? I Am Legend. All it was missing was a deer just running around. Like,
Wait.
It was empty, and in the middle of the day.
I mean, have you? So when I was in Cleveland for a work trip a couple years ago, and I was trying to find a Starbucks because I needed coffee, and I went to the Starbucks where it said the Starbucks was, and there was no Starbucks. So I went inside the building, and there was the staircase. So I went down the staircase, and I ended up in this underground labyrinth in downtown Cleveland, where there's like a 7-tiered mall.
Yeah.
Underground, and that's where the Starbucks was. And I got lost in this place because like it spanned like multiple blocks, and it was all underground. It was like the weirdest shit I have ever seen in my life.
It's like Demolition Man when they go down to where Dennis Leary lives with the underground
It's
people.
so
That's what it
weird. Yes, mole people.
What was the second Fast set that you were on? Because that one a little disappointing.
I was on the set for I want to say Tokyo Drift.
Oh wow!
I was downtown LA, and they changed all the street signs to Japanese to look like it was Tokyo, when actually we were in Koreatown. So
see, what I have to do is, and I sent myself a link today because I saw it. I don't remember where, on Twitter somewhere. It was a link saying this is where you can stream or watch all of the Fast movies, like leading up to the thing. And I need to, because like Tokyo Drift I saw once in theaters. Like Too Fast, Too Furious I saw like years later. But the thing that I'm trying to figure out is, do I watch them in terms of when they were released, like sequentially, or do I watch them in their timeline? Because
they're not chronologically in
no, they're
Which
not.
one's a prequel? Which one's a prequel?
None are prequels, but Tokyo Drift took place like after some of the ones that took place when they like started up again.
Yeah, wasn't Fast 2... Tokyo Drift's like out of that storyline, right? It's kind of like an adjacent storyline to the second Fast and the Furious, which is the Miami one, correct?
Yeah, so Tokyo Drift by that time... All right, the first Fast and Furious... Vin Diesel thought he was hot shit afterwards, right? And he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then he went off to do Triple X or whatever, the thing with the weird glasses. What was that movie called that he did?
Chronicles of Riddick?
I think so. I don't know. He did something, right? Where he thought that he wasn't going to be part of this anymore. So then the second one was like Paul Walker. And then that's when they like introduced Ludacris. And that's when they started introducing some of the other characters.
That was Tyrese was in the second one, right?
Yeah, Tyrese.
Yes.
We've talked about this a lot. Tyrese took quite the turn, so did Ludacris, in terms of their character's evolution, right? So Tyrese started kind of like as just like this guy that was like muscle, right? Where like now in all the movies, he's kind of a joke. Like that, he's like the butt of all the jokes. And Ludacris started as just a bit of a bookie that could kind of put anything together. And now he's like this tech whiz that knows how to do everything in all the movies. And it's like, how did we end up here with these characters? But I'm not going to ask. It doesn't matter with some of the stuff that's going on.
You learned from was it Worm in the second movie that was in charge of like getting the GPS off all the cars? I have vivid recollection. It's the only Fast and Furious movie that I've seen in detail, because when I was a kid, it was in our we had a SUV with a DVD player in the back, and we watched watched Too Fast, Too Furious about 147 times. So I know like every detail. But I think the character's name was Worm, that like knew how to get the GPS and all that off so that their cars can no longer be tracked by the Miami PD.
You just said detail twice during that ramble, and the first time you said detail, and the second time you said detail. What's going on there?
I sense a continuity error in Fancy Lad's character.
So sometimes I like saying detail, sometimes I like saying detail. Both are correct. So
Tokyo Drift, the only Fast and Furious I've ever watched. Never seen any of them.
Me
Shut
too.
up.
Yeah, me too.
You've been talking.
up.
You've
What
been
do you
talking
mean?
with authority on the subject.
Haven't
and
lived.
Hold on.
Have not lived.
Wait. So you were on the set of the other one, and you didn't like do the thing. Like I did it with the Bad Boys 3 or whatever it was called, right? Bad Boys 3, where we were like went out and we were across the street. Was that 3 or 4? Whatever. It's
Bad
For
Boys for
Life.
Life.
It was Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah, but
which
it
is
was
the
number
third,
3.
The third
Yeah.
Bad Boys movie, yes.
Yeah, so like I went to see it just because we were in the background when they were shooting some stuff. You didn't have like any interest in seeing like, hey, let me see what this scene was like where I saw all of these damaged cars in the middle of the street.
Not really. I mean, to me, it was just I was really upset that they yelled at me about being on an active set. Well, I said,
How did they just let you walk on also? Like that's not security.
Because it's Cleveland. They're like, wait, a pedestrian? There's actually a union here?
We didn't account for this.
I want to get paid for this. I'm
They're like-
extra.
Didn't think that Cleveland would catch this many strays on today's podcast.
They deserve it.
I'm a Steelers fan. What do you expect?
I was surprised, forgive me for taking this in another direction, but I didn't know or how or why you ended up in Naked Gun world, because you're somebody who gets to these movies. Yeah, well,
Such a good movie.
Well, because that franchise lasted how many did that was only 3? How is it that you ended up in Naked Gun world with Leslie Nielsen and a totally different O.J. Simpson than the one America knows right now?
So Dan, there's 3 Naked Guns, as you know. The original Naked Gun 2.5, and then Naked Gun 33 and a third. Now, I'm by Naked Gun 33 and a third. I haven't finished that one yet. I'm about 10 minutes in. Again, this baby just kind of interrupts all of these things. I try to watch the movies to get a bit of a break from the baby, and then it's like, well, change me, feed me, rock me, do this, do that. And it's
They're
like, all
needy,
right,
aren't
baby,
they?
I'll do this. But this is when I was supposed to be watching Naked Gun 33 and a third.
And
So how did I get there?
Your
Yeah,
general
yeah,
thoughts. I'm stunned to hear that you like this. You usually don't go back in the Wayback File of 20, 30, 40 years and actually like the movies we're presenting to you.
Well, the thing about Naked Gun is that it's kind of like a spoof of a movie, right? It's not an actual movie. It's not an actual action movie. It's just kind of like Leslie Nielsen doing Leslie Nielsen things, right? And here's a tape. Naked Gun, the original one, baseball movie.
Yep.
I would put it up there with Field of Dreams in
Yep.
terms of best baseball movies ever, Naked Gun.
Uh-huh.
Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo. Was Naked Gun a baseball movie? Is that the one where Leslie Nielsen was a look at me umpire, the first one?
That's
Yeah.
exactly. And
Frank Drebin.
they showed a movie on MLB Network. It's a baseball movie.
That umpire scene is one of the greatest baseball scenes. I will fight the Jokic brothers, both of them.
No, you won't.
Yes, if anyone suggests to me that umpire scene is not one of the greatest scenes ever in any kind of baseball realm.
Look, it's Enrico Palazzo.
But he was moonwalking. The idea that Leslie Nielsen at 80 years old would be able to move like that. Oh my God, I'm sorry. You guys, how many of the people listening to this don't have any idea what we're talking about?
Most.
None.
No clue.
Oh, my God. Come on.
Wow.
Sorry.
Honestly, Billy, I'm surprised that you're on the opposite side of this. Like, I agree with Dan. The notion that you were just watching... Are you just watching random movies now because you have a child?
How did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, I went on and I'm like, I need to watch a movie. I watched Chad. I watched the whole series of Chad. So I was like, I got to move on past that. I was looking for things to watch. So then I started watching like movies. I'm like, let me watch a movie. And then I, stumbled across the James Bond movies, just the Daniel Craig ones. So I watched the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. And then I was like, let me see some other things. So I start doing, and then you do that thing in your cable where you start looking at actors and you're like, oh, let me find this actor. Let me see what they've been in. And this is a path that I was going to go on. And I'm like, never mind. I got to Rodney Dangerfield and I'm like, let me see Rodney Dangerfield's movies, right? And then I saw like all his movies and I was like, 19% seems really low even for me in terms of approval rating. Like, let me look for something else. And then I stumbled across this Naked Gun, a classic, one that I've never seen. Much like you guys, I'd seen that umpire scene before. I said, let me give this a shot. And it was bad, but it was good bad, and it was intentionally good bad. You know what I mean? And I think it holds up somewhat. I mean, there's some things that they could do nowadays, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst. And Jess put this in the chat. It was the original Austin Powers, to the point that even some of the jokes that Austin Powers does are straight up ripoffs or homages or whatever you want to call it to Naked Gun. Like when they do kind of like the sex scenes where all of a sudden there's like rocket shootings and there's hot dogs and there's this and that, straight out of Naked Gun.
Did Rodney Dangerfield have a good movie other than Caddyshack? Is there a movie that you associate with Rodney Dangerfield? Am I forgetting something? Amin, I'm sorry. You've got a look of total shock and horror on your face.
Back to School?
Amazing. Yep. The Triple Lindy.
It was Rodney Dangerfield, lest you need not know what we're talking about. Rodney Dangerfield as a sort of Olympic diver of some sort.
He had to go back to college, right? And he moves in and he gets on the diving team as part of his college experience.
If you want to know how I truly got to Rodney Dangerfield and then eventually Naked Gun, it's because when I was looking for movies and Rodney Dangerfield came up, a movie called The Godson came up, which was clearly a play on The Godfather, and it was a mafia movie. So I'm like, I'm going to watch The Godson. So when I come back, I can say I still haven't seen The Godfather, but I've seen The Godson. And then I was like 3 minutes in and I'm like, I can't watch any more of The Godson. I'm sorry. This isn't worth it. Even for the joke, this is not worth it.
Well, this sounds like a movie. This sounds like a job for Cinephobe.
Oh, boy.
The podcast where we watch movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes and try to ascertain whether they're accurately poorly rated. Or maybe, just maybe, they didn't get a fair shake from Billy Gill. Cinephobe, wherever you get podcasts. This week, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh.
The last movie Sean Connery ever made.
I want you guys to understand that as Louis Riddick interviews for the Texans job and for the Lions general manager job, how you parlay an ESPN job into real power and how, as you listen to Amin, you don't. Louis Riddick is a front office insider who has been so good at television that now the Lions and Texans are saying, let's give him all the power. Amin is over here selling, ascertaining.
But I don't know, Dan, if you caught it. Amin told us before, he's too real for the NBA now. NBA can't handle him. He's too honest for players. They're too soft for Amin Al-Hassan's style of management.
You know, Dan, he might be having all the professional accolades and all the money and respect and all that, but I guarantee you, I have a more fun life than Louis Riddick.
Wow.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Can you guarantee that Amin Al-Hassan has a more fun life than Louis Riddick?
Stugotz here for our friends over at DraftKings. I love DraftKings. I spend all my time there, seriously. I have my mail sent there. I do. People say, hey, what's your address? My address is DraftKings.com. DraftKings Sportsbook is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It is easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Listen to this great offer. DraftKings Sportsbook is putting you courtside with a chance to turn $1 into $100 in site credits. That's right. Pick any basketball team that is still in contention. Bet $1, and if that team wins, you win $100 in site credits. How about that? DraftKings, man, they're always getting it done for our audience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Dan when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game, and if they do, you will claim $100 in free credits. That's promo code Dan for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Wager paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or, in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Stugotz, why is it that you wanted to talk about Paul George? What is it about Paul George? Have you changed your mind? Are you willing to reinvent an opinion? A guy who I don't think we move all the time, right? We take these guys. It was Carmelo Anthony for a while, but now he gets to be beloved guy because he's no longer an integral player. But we will move and shift every time one of these guys disproves us, right? Because Paul George actually did it in one game in the bubble, but then we reverted back afterward once they were eliminated to mocking Paul George as someone who doesn't want big circumstances. But on those Pacers teams, playing against LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, he was a critical number one player who challenged them. And last night, he won an enormous game on the road in the playoffs when everyone is decimated. And so what is it that you wanted to say about Paul George?
I'm just confused as to what we do with Paul George, because I wanted to talk about it before last night's game. He's had a good playoff. He's had a good series, and we have spent a good deal of time mocking Paul George on this show. Not just us. A lot of people have, and perhaps deservedly so. But he has been great in these playoffs, and last night, my goodness, I didn't think Paul George was capable of that, to be the number one guy in a team in a big spot on the road against the best team in the NBA and give you that type of performance. To me, I almost want to apologize to him.
Whoa!
I mean, dude,
Whoa!
He's great. He's been great during these plays. Listen,
shocking that Stugotz almost wants to apologize to him, getting close to an apology. What has to happen for there to be an apology?
He has to win an NBA championship.
Okay, he's never getting that.
No, but he has a shot this year. He really does. The Clippers have a shot.
Not without Kawhi.
Now, that would be a story. I'll apologize twice if he does it without Kawhi.
What? 2 apologies. Double bonus apologies. Oh, my God. Now, I want you to know that Kevin Durant had that game, and Stugotz's response was, do it again. And so when Stugotz offers the double possible apology, I don't believe him at all.
Kevin Durant validated everything I've been saying for years.
Stugotz, stop this pivot, okay?
No. Can you just hear me out?
Stop telling us how you said all along how great he is. Knock it off.
I just want you to hear me out for a second.
I don't want to hear you out. It's going to be filled with lies and backtracking.
The reason we celebrated Kevin Durant's performance is because he didn't do it with Kyrie Irving. He didn't do it with a healthy James Harden. Dan, he did that with Jeff bleeping Green. Okay? And that's my point. He doesn't need those guys. He needs Jeff Green. He needs an aging Blake Griffin and not much else. I mean, that is why this is so unfair and so ridiculous what he did. He's never been celebrated like that in his entire professional career.
Never. He was great at Oklahoma City.
That was his moment. That game was his defining moment. I'm serious.
Stugotz, you're so slippery.
I am.
What are you claiming you've always said about Kevin Durant? You're one of his biggest critics across the years. You have been louder than just about anybody about the last 6 or 7 years of his career. How are you taking a victory lap on Kevin Durant having that game?
Because he knows I'm right now, Kevin Durant. Everything I said about him, the easy path and all that stuff. He knows I'm right because he knows if he just stayed put in Oklahoma City, he would have had 1 million of those nights. 1 million of them.
He did. You don't remember any of them. Don't tell me no. He did have those nights.
You don't have those nights. You don't have those nights when you join an all-time great team. You do it with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. They've already won a title. You don't have those nights when Kyrie and James Harden are around. You have those nights where you put Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, and some guy Shamet on your shoulders, and you go win a big, big playoff game. That's how you have those nights. That's why he's being celebrated, and he deserves it for a night.
He won the MVP award
whatever.
on the back of playing without Russell Westbrook. And took a team deep in the playoffs without Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm. We were laughing before we went on air today, and it's before you got in here today, about one of your new moves, which is, and we can't imagine what this is going to sound like if you're still doing this at 60. It's just so lazy. Mm-hmm. It's just garbled, mumbled gibberish.
Yeah.
And it's just you trying as little as a human being ever has to speak. Never mind a professional broadcaster. Your move of just moving away from the microphone with kind bar in your mouth and just.
And it's always after sentences. Like, this is how I sound after sentences.
He's so good at it, though.
Yes,
he's the Michael Jordan of it.
He is the Michael Jordan of gibberish and words that aren't words that don't mean anything.
The next incarnation is him beginning sentences doing that. My sentences sound like this.
My mouth's getting tired.
Is that how it's going? Is that how he descends into retirement? Are his last words going to be...
You made some good points, though.
Thank you. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, those are all good points.
Thank you. I did.
What is your point as it regards Kevin Durant? If he has a shitty game tonight, you're going to go right back to crushing him.
Well, no, Dan, here's my point, okay? He was celebrated the way he was celebrated because he did it with a bunch of bums. That's who he won that game with, and that's how you become celebrated in the NBA. when you can't beat a team rather than come back again. Seriously, Dan.
Who did Michael Jordan beat with a bunch of bums? Who did Michael Jordan beat with not Hall of Famers?
Who has anybody beaten with a bunch of bums?
Listen, Jordan won a ton of games with Scottie Pippen. I don't know how great Scottie Pippen is if he goes somewhere else. I don't.
We know how great he is.
I'm
incredible.
not so certain. Does he win 6 titles? I don't know.
He didn't win 6 titles anywhere else.
He's a top 50 all-time player. Right. Nobody wins, Stugotz, the championship in that sport anymore with a bunch of bums. Like the closest we've seen is Kawhi Leonard recently or Dirk Nowitzki recently, but it's really hard to win with a bunch of bums.
Okay, teaming up with one guy, that's fine. But
That's all he did.
No, Dan, he teamed up with the greatest team in the history of the NBA.
He did not trade for James Harden.
Oh, but he wanted James Harden.
But who wouldn't?
I mean, he shouldn't want James Harden.
Okay, he should actively not want to get
Hey, this
better.
needs to be more difficult for me.
Kevin Durant needed to veto, put it on
I
the
think
poll.
he woke up Wednesday and he was like, hey, you know what? Stugotz was right. This thing needs to be more difficult for me. Harden, get out of here.
Guillermo,
100%.
put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Should Kevin Durant have stormed into the Nets front office and vetoed the James Harden trade, actively wanting his team to not get better?
It's too much,
okay.
man. How much better do you want to be?
Stugotz, you're the one who's perpetually farming out stupidity to others because you don't want to do the work.
Yes, but Kevin Durant is not me. He is supposed to be superior. He is supposed to be this amazing I'm lazy. He's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be great, and he's not because he plays with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green.
So your official take is Kevin Durant's not great.
No, he is
Well, we
great.
didn't know until the other day that he was great.
Right.
Because before he just had so many people around him.
I saw the fire in the belly, Dan. I did for the first time in his career. Yep, I did.
He was in Seattle, Oklahoma City for 9 years without winning a title, and that wasn't enough for you.
No.
Westbrook and Harden there.
Chris, did it ever dawn on you when Oklahoma City's up 3-1 on the Golden State Warriors that the Warriors were so aggressive in getting him because they knew eventually that team was going to beat theirs? They knew it. So they needed Durant.
No, they went for Durant because they had 25
They didn't need Durant.
They had 25 million in cap space and they just lost the title, and he's available. Just as we're saying with the James Harden thing, he's available, you go get him. Like if you're Golden State, why not try and go get him?
Stugotz is the whole point. You don't get Kevin Durant because you need to make sure that the Thunder don't beat you. You get Kevin Durant because you can get Kevin Durant.
It is a fairly amazing thing that Stugotz is trying to do here, taking a victory lap because Kevin Durant, he owes you
an apology. At the very
he
least.
owes you an apology.
Trying to help the guy out.
What is the nature of the apology? Just how do you imagine that happening? If Kevin Durant were to have a press conference today to apologize to you personally, what do you imagine that would sound like?
Hey, Stu, I've heard all the things you said about me, the easy path, and I thought you were crazy. I thought you were ridiculous. I needed to win titles. I was chasing rings. But you know what? Even after winning an NBA championship, even after winning Finals MVP, no one took me seriously. Not even my own teammates in Golden State took me very seriously. And you know what? It dawned on me. When I won a game with Jeff Green, when I won a game with Blake Griffin and some guy named Shamet, I was celebrated.
Landry Shamet.
Whatever. I was celebrated in a way that I've never been celebrated before. You know what? Because I took the hard path for one evening. I survived it, and you were right. And I should have stayed in Oklahoma City. Listen, he owes me an apology. I'm trying to help the guy out because, Dan, you compared him to me. He is not me. He's supposed to be greater than me. I mean,
constructive criticism.
Thank you. Just trying to help a guy out. I like KD. What happened?
I like KD is something that you're now
Just wants
saying.
what's best for him, Dan.
Yes, I do.
I mean, Jimmy Butler, after having that kind of game in the finals against LeBron, couldn't summon much of anything from his body after that. Kevin Durant coming off of that injury and that game, 48 hours rest, and Harden busted up. What is a reasonable and fair expectation for him against Milwaukee tonight? Because you can't expect that again, can you? Or anything close to that.
Well, no, you can't expect that, but you can expect another great game. You hope that Harden, hidden in all this, KD played 48 minutes. Harden played something like 45 or 46 in that game, and he's the one that's coming off of a fresh hamstring injury that is really tough to recover from. And he didn't really look as explosive or comfortable out there. I'm really curious to see how Harden's going to look with 48 hours of rest. I think Durant's going to be fine. He won't be 49 and 15 fine, but I think he'll be fine.
As Barkley says, the Bucks are an embarrassment and a dumb basketball team. As people rain down criticism on that collapse, which wasn't as bad as the Sixers collapse last night, what does Amin Elhassan say is the fairest criticism of the Milwaukee Bucks? I'm hesitant to do that off of a performance like that because I'd like to enjoy the historic immortal performance instead of finding ways that Budenholzer should have stopped it. But you tell me, Amin, the fairest criticisms among all of them, not going after Harden, not double teaming Durant. What are the fairest ones?
Oh, I think most of them were fair. I mean, they might sound harsh in terms of when people draw conclusions that, and this means Giannis isn't good. This means Bud is a terrible coach. But the criticisms are fair. You've got Giannis. Look, Giannis clearly idolizes Kobe Bryant on some level. He's worked out with him in the past. He's mentioned kind of Kobe as an inspiration. And so when you watch him play, you're seeing him try to do things to emulate Kobe. But dare I say it, he's emulating the wrong Laker. He should be trying to emulate Shaq. Again, like I said earlier, we wouldn't give Shaq the ball 23 feet 9 inches away from the basket and say, make something happen. We get it to him right at the basket and then ask the other team, stop him. Oh, he's just big and strong and all he does is dunk. Okay, stop it. Make it not happen. You can't, right? But that starts with Shaq having the mentality that I need to get down there and be in my comfort zone, in my sweet spot. Giannis doesn't seem that either. Giannis doesn't have an understanding of where his comfort zone is, or, Bud and his staff are putting him in a position to not be successful. But it is insane to me that Giannis would dribble down the court and say, ooh, they're laying off me. I should take this three-pointer. That's not the kind of three you're supposed to ever take. It's insane to me that he would have James Harden on him, who is a good post defender. But his answer is, well, he's a good post defender. Guess I better shoot this fadeaway. He's not that good of a post defender. You're still 4 to 5 inches taller than him with a great wingspan. Get down into the paint and finish near the basket. And I think these things as points of emphasis aren't going over in Milwaukee's locker room. And then on the other end, you got to double team Durant at that point. What, you're afraid that Landry Shamet's going to kill you?
When we talk about physically strong players, I think one of the things that people don't understand about, for example, never mind Paul George, who's unbelievably strong, or Jimmy Butler, the sheer strength of James Harden, the physical strength of James Harden. When you think of guys in the league who people simply don't understand how physically strong they are, who are the guys you think of?
Well, Harden's definitely on that list, and the other name is the guy he was guarding. It would be Giannis. Giannis is another one where, because he looks skinny, he looks ripped, but he doesn't look like he's super strong. He's incredibly strong. When he hits you, it's hard for defenders to react, because it almost immobilizes you. Other players, Chris Paul is really strong. Donovan Mitchell is really strong. Embiid obviously very strong. It's
right?
weird because a lot of what we're talking about is core strength. We're not talking about how many reps you can do on the bench or how many curls. It's talking about core strength, and those guys that work out and work on that stuff are incredibly hard to move. And when they hit you, you feel it.
Who's physically stronger, James Harden or Kawhi?
I might lean towards Harden. He's like a fire hydrant. He's just immovable in that way.
That's interesting because most people would say Kawhi, right?
Well, Kawhi is unbelievably strong, and also a way I think people underestimate. You simply cannot do what he does. His hand size is ridiculous. So's Chris Paul's, but you cannot do what Kawhi does unless you're physically stronger than most of the people you're playing against.
Well, yeah. So Kawhi's hand size allows him to do some crazy stuff, and also he's got incredible length and reach, and is very strong throughout that. It's not so he can hold you and corral you around. But we talk about Harden, we talk about that core strength, but also he's probably got the strongest hands in the NBA. The reason why Harden's able to draw so many fouls is when he goes to the basket, he does something that coaches teach you not to do, which is he extends the ball away from his body, right? Because he's trying to bait you to reach down and swipe down, right? And when you do that, he's got such a tight grip on the ball that he just holds and rips up and draws that foul. And that's all due to incredible hand strength that he has.
How could you possibly know he has the strongest hands in the NBA?
Because who else can put the ball out in front of them as many times as he does and not lose it, not get stripped? Rather, think about how many times when that happens, you get the whistle call, and you guys, oh, he's flopping or he's just trying to draw fouls, but the ball never goes down. It never gets slapped down. It always goes up towards the basket. That's his hand strength.
I believe that we always, even though we're all watching it and interested, I believe we all underestimate all the time watching how great these people actually are at what they do and how much they work at it. So what does Amin say to the person today who is saying, Simmons, all you got to do, get in the gym and take 1,000 jumpers every day, take 1,000 free throws every day, as if that's not something he's already doing every day.
Is he doing it? Do we know that?
He's doing it. Of course, at least the free throws he's working on. But again, I go back to my experience with Shaq. The guy shot like 85, 90% in practice. Shaq was so good in practice, his form looked different. He shot it looked like a regular jump shot. And then when he got in the games, remember, he cradle it and he kind of leaned forward and almost push shot it in. That's not how he shot in practice. But when he gets out there in those lights, that's how he feels. And that's why I always go back to, look, they're doing this. This mental block is because they're not comfortable. They're worried about letting the team down. They're worried about not being big enough for the moment. And all you have to do is remove that from them and say, look, I don't care, man. Shoot 40 free throws. Shoot 20 of 40. I guarantee you they're all going to be in foul trouble, and we'll be shooting free throws with the 10-minute mark of every quarter. And that's fine. But if you are if it affects the way you play, if you're running from the ball, if you're playing hot potato, now you're a liability. Now you're a guy that honestly doesn't really help us on the floor.
I mean, the one team we haven't really discussed is the Atlanta Hawks. I think they have a chance to win a championship. If for no other reason, they're simply the healthiest team that's left here. No?
Well, they lost DeAndre Hunter for the season. He was a big part of their success. I mean, sure, they're healthy. The Suns, to me, are the ones that look like the biggest lock. Because even though Chris Paul is in protocol, allegedly he is vaccinated, which means his protocol will be shorter. And also, that series ain't over yet. So if you're the Suns, you're saying, okay, worst case scenario, he might miss game one. But the reality is, other than that, the Suns have been remarkably healthy. Paul had the shoulder thing, but clearly he's over that now. I think they're in the driver's seat right now when you look at Utah with Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. You look at Brooklyn with all the stuff that's going on with them. You look at Philly with Danny Green and also Embiid playing with the torn meniscus. And then the Clippers missing Kawhi for the rest of the playoffs. And then the Hawks, I just don't think are good enough to get out of the East like that. So
you really petered out there.
Yeah.
Usually thoughts don't end I didn't have an end point. Yeah, you just sort of gave up on it. I wanted to ask the group about, he's not quite as good at that as you are, Stugotz. I wanted to ask the group about a story the other day that we never got to, which is, and you do not hear or see this very often, a lot of people at TNT behind the scenes are complaining about what has happened with AT&T coming in and making changes. And Charles Barkley publicly, you don't see a lot of this where people give voice to, I'm annoyed by my employer here. And Charles Barkley publicly said, because he's gotten a talking to about something he's done for many years, which is make fun of the women of San Antonio for being ugly. He has done this for many years. And he has been told specifically to stop that. And his response is, I've been told to stop that. And I can't wait till 60 years old so I can get my ass out of here, because Charles Barkley does not want to be told at this point or any point in his life what he can and cannot say. And he has been one of the guys who is Teflon, even though I understand totally an employer in this spot, in this climate, telling him, Charles, rein that back. It's not an important enough joke to be doing that.
Small correction. He actually calls the women of San Antonio bigger as far as size is concerned. He calls the women of Georgia ugly.
Okay, very good correction. Thank
very
you.
Very important. Seriously,
I don't know which one it is that AT&T is correcting him on, but when that guy specifically, who has gotten immunity throughout his life, is telling you, complaining about cancel culture, I find myself surprised that anyone in any climate is telling Charles Barkley to not be Charles Barkley when Charles Barkley has been what he's been for as many years, at least in part because he has some sort of strange, weird immunity that no one else in the media has, even though what he's saying should stop. I think we can all agree that it should stop, even though he's been doing that for many years.
It seems like a small concession for Charles to make.
Well, he doesn't want to make any concessions.
I know he
His
doesn't.
whole brand is no concessions.
Right.
Yeah, they're not asking him not to be Charles Barkley. They're just saying stop fat-shaming women in San Antonio. It, like Stugotz said, it's just like a minor thing he can stop doing. There's a whole other list of things he's allowed to do. So I don't really see why it's a big deal for him to just realize that in 2021, making fun of women isn't that funny. Like, I don't think it's funny. I don't know what's funny about women being fat.
I don't know what's funny about men being fat
joke?
either.
Yes.
Men fat jokes aren't that funny either to me, if I'm being honest.
I don't think so either. They're selling hippos at the Miami Zoo, those wax hippos with my name on them. And I'm not okay with this either. The objection, Jessica, by Charles Barkley is no one tells me what to say on anything. That's what I do. That's the space that I reside in, and I understand why he would buck against anybody telling him that he can't say anything, because that's the whole brand. It's what you're paying him to be, Charles Barkley. And so I understand why he would object at this point in his life, where he's just trying to get to 60 so he can retire, that he doesn't want the new bosses governing him on whatever their moralities are, any of them.
Right, but when you're on TV, there are certain things you're not allowed to say. It's not like he has free, like, carte blanche. He can say whatever he wants. There's rules when you're on television, and this is part of that, is that you want to cater to your advertisers or your audience, whoever it is that they're trying to make happy by not allowing these jokes. Like, you can't go on TV and say the F word. Like, there's a whole list of things you can't do on TV. This is part of that.
The rules don't apply to him. Never have.
Yeah, but now they do. So that's, they just do. And it's a small rule. It's a small concession to make. Like, hey, you're hurting people's feelings. Stop doing it. We're not comfortable with it. You've had run-of-the-mill around here forever. We're making one small ask. Please change it.
What is run-of-the-mill around here forever?
He can do whatever he wants. He has had the ability to do things that no one else can, and I understand. Man, what does Charles Barkley need bosses telling him anything? He doesn't. About? I mean, that's obvious. He doesn't.
But I do think that, like, if let's say a colleague, like let's say Candace Parker, comes up to Charles Barkley and says, hey, let's have a conversation about what you say about women in San Antonio. Perhaps he's more receptive to it. It's specifically who it's coming from. But, like, I do think that, like, if a respected colleague said, hey, can you not? I would imagine Charles might be receptive to that. But, yeah, you're talking about the notion of being told what to do by bosses not being received well. But I do think the message is one worth hearing.
Does it not buy him anything, though, that he clearly is smiling when he does it at this point? Maybe the first time he did it, he actually meant it, but it's become a bit at this point.
What? What are you talking about?
What? He does it. He does it jokingly. Like, his intention.
Do you think if you're a woman watching the show and Charles Barkley is talking about fat women in a disparaging, misogynistic way, you're like, well, he's smiling, so he's not talking about me. It's just a joke. It's funny. What are you talking about?
I mean, as someone who gets called fat all the time, I do take with a grain of salt when people are like, "Oh, it's the
no,
bit."
But it's different. They're allowed. Look, this is an inequality that is totally allowed when it comes to being in the positions of power. Of course, Chris, that's not going to change with either you or I. It is different when you're making fun of those in power than when you're not. And to be clear, understand totally why it is. Charles is wrong on this one. Yeah. He should stop doing that. But I also understand why Charles Barkley specifically would call out his employer on nobody needs to be telling me anything about how to be Charles Barkley, because Charles Barkley has lived his entire professional public career not giving a bleep what anyone has to say about anything that he has to say. My God, for the last 15 years, he has been held up by white people every time he does the respectability politics on black people. Like, every single time, Charles Barkley has been turned into a symbol by white people who believe a certain thing. And then Charles Barkley says them also about black people, and he gets waved around as somebody that infuriates black people because of some of the opinions that he has. As he tells you at every turn, the hardest decision I have to make every day is between a four-season Four Seasons, and a Ritz-Carlton. But I get why it is that Charles Barkley, at this stage in his career, having profited more than anyone possibly could off of decades after being an athlete on Saturday Night Live and everything else, on the brand of, I'm the guy who appears on Sports Illustrated breaking slave chains in a cover shoot. I'm the guy who tells you in a McDonald's commercial, I am not a role model. It's the whole brand. It's the whole center of what it is that he is. And so if I were him, how would you not buck on anything corporate is telling you? Never mind whether you want to listen to human beings. Hey, this is hurtful. This is an indecent thing to do at any time. Don't do it anymore. I think Charles is just bucking on the idea of new ownership is suddenly telling him what to do when no one's ever told him what to do.
I just don't get how he's gone away with it this long to begin with. Like, what if there is a fat woman in corporate? Why are we assuming that it's a man telling him to stop making this joke?
Oh, come on, Cody, Jessica. It's always a man. Come on, Jessica.
And
if it's at
it
the
might
top,
not be.
If it's at the top of corporate, it's how we've gotten away with that joke for the last 15 years that he's made it. It's because it's never a woman at the top of corporate. It's the reason that you could go out. It's the reason you could fat shame the man at the top of corporate.
I mean, but boo-hoo, Charles Barkley. Like, sorry, you have a job and now your boss is telling you to do something. Like, you get paid millions of dollars. Like, how hard is it to have to follow rules? Everyone has to do things they don't want to do at work. Like, just don't call people fat. Like, that's a simple rule. Boo-hoo, I'm so sorry that your life is so hard. Or you, like, if you don't want to be told, like, you can just quit. I mean, no one's stopping him from quitting if he wants to run around just calling people fat or whatever it is that he wants to do all day. Like, if this is such a horrible injustice that he's going through.
You don't have to wait till 60. I do think there's something to what Whittingham said. It's the messenger on this one. Perhaps if it was a peer, perhaps if it was Candace Parker, perhaps if you did it. Dan, I have daughters.
No, it's
different.
Not
I'm sorry.
Candace Parker's job. It's not Candace Parker's job to stand up for women and say, hey, this joke's misogynistic. She's trying to do her job. She's a basketball analyst. That's why she's on the show. This is not her job.
Charles should just do it, regardless of the messenger. I agree with you, but maybe the messenger would be able to get the message across in a way that Charles would understand, be able to digest and say, okay, I'm not going to do this moving forward.
Boo-hoo.
I think he's pissed no matter who the messenger
Have
is.
real problems. How about that?
I know he's on holiday, but
love a good holiday.
Love a good holiday, yeah.
What? Oh, vacation.
No.
Holiday sounds better.
You have it right, John. So is vacation not a word that's used by English people, or
no?
It's just in any sense. It's just.
What was the first one you said?
There's no other added context.
No, it just feels overly elaborate.
So like Rugrats Vacation is called like Rugrats Holiday in Britain.
We may have stepped outside of my expertise area here.
What about how about like Christmas Vacation, the Chevy Chase movies?
No, it's Christmas holiday.
Oh, is it really?
I'm
actually surprised by that. Like, I'm
Christmas
surprised
holiday.
Christmas holiday.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I've just
we are stumping the meat.
I've just finished having a fight with my publishers because they have made my book American. They have changed all the spelling to American.
Oh, so like favorite, they take out the U's.
Yes, they spell it wrong. Yes.
Yeah, no behavior.
John, before we get to the tomfoolery, let me ask you a question. Who's the best James Bond?
Idris Elba.
Ooh, but he's not one yet. Who's the best one that's done it so far? Because I think Daniel Craig has been pretty good.
I mean, it depends how you like your low-grade misogyny and toxic masculinity kind of baked. If your idea of a man is someone who punches really hard and can take a punch, then Daniel Craig is amazing. If you like it, someone who's so emotionally broken that they can't forge even the remotest semblance of relationship with anybody. If you like your spies so that they yell that they're a spy to everyone who's listening and can be beaten by somebody who pops something in their martini, then Daniel Craig is brilliant.
We agree.
I prefer the old days of a bit of whimsy and the idea that the whole franchise didn't take itself so bloody seriously. You know, the idea, if you're going to be ridiculous and have a spy who announces to everybody, by the way, hi, yes, I'm a secret spy, then why not just do it with tongue in cheek? So stick to the people who did it that way.
You'd like Naked Gun.
Yeah.
I do
It's
like
smart.
them. Yeah.
The James
Exactly my
Bond.
kind. That's my speed. It's my speed.
So you're saying that a spy being whipped in the testicles for no apparent reason is not exactly your idea of James Bond?
The whole thing is so ridiculous. You know, I can't talk about it, but we know better.
He's rattled.
It's too late. We've been taping everything you're saying. So what do you mean? You're already talking about it. So go ahead. And I believe there was a very good reason that somebody was whipped in the testicles, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe it was inexplicable. But go ahead and unspool that thought before we get into the serious subject matter. And your book, by the way, which I want to talk to you about.
Thank you. So, I mean, I think the thing for me, torture is a far more sophisticated thing than simply nailing someone in the nads. It always has been and always will be. And I've never understood the idea. If you want compliance from somebody, I mean, there's a reason psychologists are not allowed to be, according to the, if you want to keep your license, we're not allowed to be involved in torture for very good reasons, because there are simpler ways of extracting information from people than nutting them, right? It's just that there are better ways than that. And that not as visually pleasing, that's for sure, but better.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Is torture a more sophisticated thing than nailing someone in the nads? Yes or no?
I'm going to vote on that one.
At Le Batard Show. Your book, John, everyone loves hearing from you around here. You have a way of talking about things in a way that is sort of measured and unarguable when you make your points and your tone doesn't get in the way. The need to write another book. What are you trying to accomplish with that? And tell the people where it is and how it is they could get it.
Yep. So they've done this weird staggered thing where The Promises of Giants is available for pre-order now in the United Kingdom, but not available in America until November or something. I don't know. I can't explain it. The wisdom of other people. In terms of why write the book, I mean, every time we talk, Dan, essentially what we're talking about is the vacuum of leadership. Whatever problem or challenge we are discussing is wrought from an absence of leadership, and not just named leaders, not just like the president or a senator or a business leader, but the idea that individual people have been told for so long that they are inconsequential, that their voice doesn't matter, they can't make a difference, that they've started to believe people. And there's a leadership void. We need people who can help make our world better. And I not everybody was blessed with having a mother as good as mine. And so I am trying to make it so that wisdom that has been passed down to me from my mother, from other people who I've met and have learned from in my life can be distilled into a book. And the usual me, right? So yes, there's some geekery. Yes, there's some science, but mostly it's stories, because I think that's the way we've been conveying important information since we lived in caves. So I'm just hoping it'll help people find their inner giant, realize that whoever they are, in whatever context, you have something to offer. You have a uniqueness that we really need.
What is the inspiration behind it? Because writing is difficult and it is much easier to just go on Twitter or just grab a microphone and let your thoughts go. Why? What's the inspiration?
This was not a labor of love. I just want to point that out there right now. I have hated this book for the last 2 years, and only now am I beginning to build a relationship with it again. The inspiration for it is I am tired of people being told that they aren't enough. I'm tired of people being told that they aren't the right kind of person to lead or make a difference. I think there are amazing ways to be authentic and authentically you and still make a difference. And there are some changes required. There's some challenges to meet. The book is called The Promises of Giants because there are 14 promises, 14 things that people have to think about if they want to make a difference. Starting with introspection, the idea that you have to look at yourself and know yourself, and then moving all the way through to interpersonal, how you interact with other people, skills, abilities you need there, and then organizational, whether that's a community or a business or politics. How do you navigate that and how do you influence the culture and not be consumed by it?
Why was it not a labor of love? Beyond writing is hard.
because I'm lazy. Because fundamentally, I am lazy. And this has been every weekend pretty much for the last 18 months. And so I knew the value of it. At least I knew what I was trying to do with the value of it. People will determine the value of it themselves. But there's a point where you start to resent the blank page in front of you. You're a journalist, from your early days, sometimes it isn't where you want it to be. And then you've got to match this expectation that people have when they hear you talk. And for some reason, I'm better when just asked a question randomly than when I sit down and try and write something that makes sense as a narrative. But I'm hoping that I've got a balance here of weird, tangential stories and geekery.
One of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you here is because last week we were having a conversation, or maybe 2 weeks ago, where I was talking specifically, John, about your and my experience, and the audience has gotten to know you. And I was talking about how difficult it is for an athlete in his prime, even now, Pride Month and everything else, and in America and a world that has seen some progress, how hard it was for even you. I thought that you were going to be, during your playing career, a spokesman and an advocate with uncommon strength about being gay in male-dominated sports and toxic masculinity that you find in male locker rooms. And I was trying to explain to Stugotz why it is that not even you could summon the strength, when I think of you as someone with uncommon strength, to do that during your playing career. And I didn't have a way of expressing that to him from your perspective. So whatever it is that you can offer us on that front in terms of illumination, they're still making fun of me for not realizing that you were gay when we were in a gay nightclub.
I did wonder about that. I did wonder. For someone so acute, you missed that one. So why not? There are a number of reasons. Some of them were quite pragmatic. I knew that it would be very challenging as people gleefully point out, and a very average NBA player, to maintain my position as an out gay player. I knew that would be difficult. I knew from conversations that I had with the president of the Magic, for example, or with a number of people at the Utah Jazz, that their understanding of my queerness was unwelcome. And so I knew that it would cause a direct challenge there. And I knew that I wasn't going to have the supportive back office, the supportive certainly not coaching staff in some places. In terms of the teammates, I just would point out that in terms of the teams themselves, that is, although there were indiscreet and hurtful comments made, they were not at me or around me. They were not at me, sorry. They were directed towards me, even though they did wound. But the locker rooms themselves, I rarely describe locker rooms as places that are toxically masculine. If you spend any time in a locker room at all, you realize it is the kind of last bastion of intimacy for men. In the best possible way, right? In the non-sexual kind of just intimacy, the place where you can cry, the place where you can talk, the place where you can share your worries and concerns. At its best, that is what a locker room can be. So I was less concerned about my teammates and more concerned about whether I could keep my job or not.
You thought it would be career-ending?
I didn't think it would. I knew it would. I had enough conversations with people who, especially, apparently I became more obviously gay to people over time. The English accent didn't fool people forever. Apparently wearing bangles is a dead cert. Yeah, definitely gay. That, and I don't know, was it tongue rings? I don't know. I don't have one of those. But so when that became something, I ended up sitting in rooms with people having conversations that were essentially along the lines of never talking about it, but just making it clear that we're a family organization. And I don't know if you've read my 16 books that I've written about values and how organizations have to be driven by values, and we wouldn't want anything unsavory. And you have a couple of those conversations and you realize that in the scheme of things, you are ultimately replaceable. And you can either be a martyr or a momentary flash, or you can stick around and hopefully make a long-term difference.
I thought we were headed toward breakthrough on this front with Jason Collins and Michael Sam, but it has gotten quiet in the last couple of years when it comes to progress, and I'm not sure that sports is a great deal safer an environment now for a man in team sports, American team sports, to do this. Is it? Because
yeah. It is for the players in the locker room. So there are a number right now of out male athletes in the major team sports. They are out to their teammates. They are out to at least some of front office. They are out to coaches. Not all teammates necessarily, but many. There are quite a few now who are out in that way. And I just want to put that in perspective for people who don't know any gay people. That is the way that most gay people are out. They aren't necessarily, hi, I'm John, I'm gay, is not necessarily the first sentence that one delivers. So they're out to people they give a damn about and who think might give a damn about them. And so you earn that disclosure. That's the point of disclosure. People get disclosure wrong all the way. I know I've ranted about this before, but people do get it wrong when it comes to coming out. People think that when someone comes out to you, when I say I am gay, what I am doing is telling you something about me. But Dan, when I told you what you perhaps still fail to understand, and what people listening will fail to understand, is I was not making a statement about me. I was making a statement about you. I was making a statement that I have seen you. I have heard you. I have watched how you behaved. And I believe this most precious thing that is potentially dangerous to my career is something I can give to you with safety. That is what disclosure is, whether you're coming out about your religion, about your dyslexia, about your neurodiversity, whatever it is. When you share something with somebody else, it is a statement, a profound statement about the person you're sharing with.
You mentioned organizational values, and over the last year, I have been bothered. I've been actively bothered by corporations, the way that they have just been blowing with the wind in terms of, and the NFL is guiltier of this than just about anybody, the idea that, hey, never mind, we were wrong about the whole Kaepernick thing. So when you talk about organizational values, I don't expect that from my corporations. I expect them to simply lie to me to continue their commerce.
I agree. I think lying to people is du jour, especially where it comes to the NFL. I mean, their duplicity is even for me, words fail me. I don't have a qualifier big enough. But the idea that they can be supporting Black Lives Matter at this stage after constructively dismissing someone who should have been working this whole time, and then employing somebody who's my age to work, it just seems outrageous. That might be a slight exaggeration, but I believe that person is old. I don't know who it is. This is the surface level of my interest in sport that I can maintain. So yeah, I think you're right. You do expect people to lie, but values, if you state them as values, you expect them to be a little more congruent. You expect a set of behaviors and implications from those values, and that's why organizations are screwing up. They don't realize that although generalizations about generations are generally really poor, a sentence I very much enjoy saying, that one thing we can say about younger generations, and increasingly our generation too, for the older people in the room, is that we are increasingly sensitive to incongruence. We would much rather somebody come up to our face and yell the N-word, for example, than someone shake your hand and smile and then do it behind our back. The incongruence is what is causing, and organizations, we are working with multinationals right now who are struggling because they cannot find talent to stay simply because they've read their website and it says you're this kind of organization. They show up and it's something completely different. And the gap is what drives them, not the narrative itself.
I remember still being stunned, John, at your reaction after Tim Hardaway came on our show and said flatly, I hate gay people. And then I called you and was like, what is your reaction to this? And yours, it was almost ebullience. It was almost joy. You're like, finally, someone just said it out loud. Finally, no more camouflage and no more lying. You gave voice to it and you said it. I was stunned at the time by your reaction to that because you were grateful that Tim Hardaway's homophobia had been put out in public.
Yeah, it is useful to know the target you're trying to hit, right? It's useful to know the location of the enemy. We've been playing battleships and people had just been lying about where their ships were. And finally, someone just said, here I am, and I hate you. And all of a sudden, you can respond to this in a way that doesn't have people saying, well, no, I'm not saying I hate gay people. I just don't think gay people should ever hold hands in public. No. I'm not saying I hate gay people, but they probably shouldn't be allowed around children. Instead, it was someone who just said the words, not varnished with bullshit about religion, not varnished with nonsense about values and family values, just the truth.
Meech, I want to ask you, because I used to have this attitude towards racism, right? I'd rather someone come out and be outwardly racist to me, and I know who my enemy is, than to smile in my face and then, do things behind my back. And then 2016 happened, and I realized a lot more people are a lot more racist than I originally anticipated. How do you reconcile that with now many of these people are brazenly, where they would have been ashamed and hiding in their caves and not wanting to show their true prejudiced colors? Now they are brazen about letting you know exactly how prejudiced they are towards different races, different sexual orientations, etc.
So I still prefer to know that 70 million people still voted for a man who is a xenophobic, racist, misogynist, other words. I still prefer to know, because now nobody can lie. We can't pretend that the country is progressive. We can't look around and say that values that we thought enshrined now, earned, enshrined, amended, are safe, because they are not safe. But I think what's interesting, is that even with these people who say things that are blatantly racist, weirdly, The Daily Show, that I don't know the name of the correspondent, but there's a correspondent for The Daily Show who goes to these rallies and tall white gentlemen and talks to these people. He elicits from them broad racism, to have it followed up by I'm not racist. So I think what's interesting is now, while we are in this place where people are overtly racist, they are more vociferous in their denial of their racism. And that's what makes this such a dangerous time, where people can at once be vehemently, vociferously racist and deny, with the backing of pseudo-credible people, that they're racist, allowing it to perpetuate.
You are a clinical psychologist, and you have used your powers in the corporate sphere to help companies be better about all of this stuff. How much resistance do you receive? How much do corporations actually want to be about values as you're demanding values from them?
And the thing is, so highly resistant, all the way through to a door waiting to be pushed open. I am not insisting on values. I probably would not have been the person to design websites to have pages and pages of flowery rhetoric describing the warm fuzzies that you'll get when you come into this company and then work 14 hours a day. But since people are doing that, what I'm suggesting is that in order to maintain congruence and have people under the age of 50 want to work for you for more than 18 months, you might want to deal with the implications of those values. When you write on your website, your manager will take an interest in your career. When you write on your website, we celebrate pride. You are telling your staff members, whether they be based in Saudi Arabia or Indiana or London, you are telling them that you can come to work and feel safe, and your boss and your peers will not make fun of you. And if they do, there will be a sanction. So there's implications for these promises. So my job is to help people get as close as possible to their promises, or reduce their promises so that the gap is smaller.
What is an organization's responsibility? What is a corporation's responsibility in your view? They've hired you, and they've hired you for specific reasons.
So do you mean their responsibility to their colleagues, to their employees?
Yes.
To create an environment where every single person knows that every single day they will be challenged to deliver their very best. There will be moments where they will be stretched beyond the point where they thought they could possibly deliver, but they will never be broken. They will never be put in a position where damage, trauma is inflicted on them. They will be in a position where managers care, have empathy for. This is not about effusive kind of rolling words. This is about the idea that as a human being, beyond a job description, your manager sees you. This is the responsibility of organizations, because the organizations want to win and I want to win. I'm not a soft touch. I'm not interested in warm, fuzzy moments or sitting around a campfire making s'mores. I want to win. And if you want to win, you create an environment that people never want to leave. And you do that by creating connections with people so that, let's face it, not everybody on your staff gets to do the sexy, exciting stuff. More so on your staff than most others, because frankly, half the people on the screen would never be seen in other shows. But most organizations, the essential work is so boring and so onerous and so repetitive that it's impossible to be connected to it in any authentic way. So what you have to do is have managers and leaders for whom that work is so important, but connect themselves legitimately to employees so that even if the work is boring, the work is important to this manager is important to me, therefore the work is important to me. That's just, it's called identified regulation. It's a theory of motivation. It's boring, but this is how we work.
We ask you to support the people who support us. Amaechi has been doing that for a long time. The name of the book, The Promises of Giants. You should seek it out and find it because there's wisdom all over the place when John Amaechi is speaking or writing. We will get you out on this one. No Stump the Meech this time because Stugotz has not been as incompetent as usual, though very incompetent. You like what best about your book? What is it that you find yourself proud of?
What I like best about my book is that you will meet my mother when you read my book. She is the kind of person, though long gone, that when she talks to you, it's like she illuminates your brain. And people who read my book will get to meet her.
She told you on her deathbed, right? I have not had a fun life, but I have had a full life.
Yep. I've had probably more fun than she did, but full is still the important part.
John, always good catching up with you, buddy. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, guys.